Welcome back. So now we're going to talk about Homeboy's social entrepreneurships. And before I tell you about them, let's talk about what is a social entrepreneurship. Okay? So we normally think of businesses, governments, and societies as the three main actors that people deal with in human experience, right? So governments we know, right? We elect political officials to represent our interests, and they provide things like social security, welfare, diplomatic services, police protection, military protection, all this stuff that governments provides, right? Public schools in the case of the United States. So that's the government area. Then there's businesses, and businesses provide goods and services normally through some sort of a medium of exchange, like everything that we engage in commerce is usually associated with businesses. And then there's a societal sphere. And that can be things like interactions with your family that provide certain kinds of goods and services, whether it's protection or mentorship or love or whatever. We have churches, religious institutions that are normally considered to be societal actors. And of course, religious institutions provide a variety of services, whether it's faith, education. Historically, they provided health care. So there's all sorts of things that societal actors can provide too. Well, sometimes there is a need in the human experience that businesses and governments fail to provide, and therefore society steps up and provides those. And that is what we define as a social entrepreneurship. You're using entrepreneurial thinking and entrepreneurial techniques, but you're doing it for the benefit of the societal sphere, the social sphere. Whereas entrepreneurship in the mainstream is normally in the business sphere. Now there's also public service entrepreneurship, which is the government equivalent of that. Okay, so that's social entrepreneurship. And these social entrepreneurships at Homeboy Industries are all services that are not provided by anybody else. There's no, pardon me, there's no businesses that provide them, there's no government actor that provides them, and there's no other societal actor that's providing this degree of services, and that's why Father Boyle is a social entrepreneur, filling that gap. Okay? So the first one, as I briefly alluded to, in the history of Homeboy Industries, tattoo removal is their biggest social entrepreneurship. They provide tattoo removal, prioritizing the hands, face, and neck, because those are considered impediments to employment. They have a few dozen medical staff that work to actually do the tattoo removal. And it's very expensive. That is their biggest money drain. But again, that's the core of Father Boyle's mission, is giving these people a second chance at life, and they cannot do that if they are covered in tattoos. Now, I mentioned that there's homies and homegirls, who are normally what we call the Select 300. They get to go through their extensive 18-month program of job rehabilitation and training and all this other kind of stuff. The tattoo removal, however, is provided to full-time trainees and is provided to members of the community, right? And they remove hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of tattoos since they started this program. Okay. There's also an education component. I mentioned the Learning Works Charter School that helps homies under 21 get their GED, but there's all sorts of training classes under the education, including a solar panel training program. There's also workforce development, which is kind of like education, but they're teaching these homies like basic skills, like don't drink or do drugs when you're at work. And you're laughing when you hear that, but again, if nobody ever told you that, you wouldn't know. And so they're training them not to do these things. They're teaching them the habits because their parents, because society, because the government has failed to do so. They do case management. A lot of these people have issues with parole, with abuse, with domestic violence, with immigration, all this kind of stuff. And that ties into legal services too. There are lawyers and paralegals on hand to help them through some of these issues. Mental health is a big one. They also teach transcendental meditation because of a donation from Jim Carrey. So that's pretty cool too. But they teach them how to be in balance with themselves and overcome the severe trauma and PTSD that they experienced when they were in prison. Drug addiction is a big thing for homies and homegirls, and so they basically help them overcome their substance abuse problems. And they have domestic violence counseling, again, because a lot of them have issues. Maybe their parents abused them, maybe they've been abused by a spouse, whatever it is. Now, under the mental health component and also kind of under case management, they actually teach a lot of these trainees how to be parents because they never had good role models as parents and they don't know what to do. And it broke my heart when I heard this. They have supervised playtime. So, your child can go and they can play with the toys at Homeboy Industries and you can kind of be there playing with them too. And some of the older homies that said, well, could they have playtime for these older people, people in their 40s and 50s, because they never got to experience that. We grow up where we can play at home and you outgrow it and then you do other things, but they never got to have that. So it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. So those are some of the examples of their social entrepreneurships. So let's look on the next video looking at social enterprises. As always, if you like this video, give me a like, that's a thumbs up. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and comment down below. I'll see you next time.